Tonight on Currents News, a question of human dignity. Undocumented workers say they're being cheated out of pay.
And immigrant construction workers in Queens say that's making their life even more difficult during the pandemic. I'm Emily Druby with what one organization is doing to help.
The COVID crisis is getting worse, infecting more Americans in a single day than ever before.
Now they're looking at Jesus Christ. They're looking at George Washington. They're looking at Abraham Lincoln.
President Trump is vowing to stop anyone who wants to tear statues down.
A Catholic dating website that's making social distancing a thing of the past by allowing couples to download their future. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
Plus, the Pittsburgh parish that will respond to specific needs of Black Catholics. The bishop making it happen is here tonight. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. The COVID crisis is increasing hardship everywhere. New infections are breaking records from coast to coast. Now, undocumented workers in Queens are claiming bosses are using the outbreak to cheat them out of their pay. Currents News' Emily Druby has the story from Briarwood.
Natasha's family is struggling to put food on the table and pay the bills, and the paycheck they've been counting on is 2 months late.
Porque no hemos podido pagar la renta.
Because we haven't been able to pay the rent, and all of this has affected us.
Natasha and her daughter at the Briarwood, Queens construction site where her husband, an undocumented immigrant, had been working. They're demanding his salary be paid. Natasha lost her job to the pandemic. Martin says his family is in a similar situation.
I live off of my job, so they were almost throwing me out of the house because I couldn't pay rent.
Both Martin and Natasha say fighting what they describe as wage theft is terrifying because they're undocumented. So they reached out to Workers' Justice Project for help.
Y le doy muchas gracias.
And I give a lot of thanks to this institution because they're supporting every single person who is here.
The Brooklyn-based organization fights for immigrant workers' rights. They mostly deal with day laborers and domestic workers who have little to no support, especially since many of their clients are undocumented. The group is helping Martin, Natasha, and 8 others with the wage theft allegations they have raised against Madison, New York Services, who do demolition, concrete work, and more. They organized a protest outside the construction site on Queens Boulevard. In regards to the accusations, we attempted to speak with a man identified as the owner on the site. He refused to talk. Another man connected with the company also wouldn't talk. We also left several telephone messages for the company but have not heard back. Glendy Citoras of Workers' Justice Project says the organization has been asking for the payments, which amount to almost $10,000 for over a month. They visited the site a week ago and were told to come back. Before the protest, one more attempt to contact the employer.
He just hung up. He just hung up? Yeah.
Glendy says they'll be bringing the case to the Attorney General on Friday. This incident is not an isolated one. Workers' Justice Project says they've actually seen an increase in wage theft cases since the pandemic started.
So this is the excuse that they are using now.
The organization says they have 30 cases now, up from 12 in January. The pandemic has been especially difficult for undocumented families who can't benefit from many of the government's assistance programs, like unemployment. As they're fighting for workers, they're also fighting to keep their funding, 80% of which is through the city's Day Laborer Workforce Initiative, funded through the city's discretionary budget. Right now, they're unsure if that money will make it into the new city budget. In Briarwood, Emily Druby, Currents News.
New York cops and inspectors will be tracking out-of-towners coming to the Big Apple to enforce that new 14-day quarantine. It's been in effect since midnight for residents traveling to the tri-state area from high-risk coronavirus states. Governor Andrew Cuomo is saying there will be random car stops and checks of airplane passenger lists.
We'll have inspectors who are randomly looking at names on the list and calling to follow up to make sure you're quarantining. And if you're not, then you're in violation of the law, and you will have a mandatory quarantine and you'll be fined.
New Jersey and Connecticut are also requiring the quarantine. Right now, people from 9 states are to be isolated. That quarantine is happening as there's an explosion of new infections coast to coast. More than 45,000 cases were confirmed Wednesday, a record for a single day. COVID is rampaging through several of the nation's largest states. Whitney Wild has the story.
Florida, Texas, and California are signaling startling trends.
COVID-19 is still here, is spreading faster than ever before.
Texas and Florida both saw record highs of more than 5,000 new coronavirus infections Wednesday.
We implemented a mask rule in public this week because, like you said, we saw a record number of cases the last few days in Miami-Dade County.
California's cases surged to more than 7,000 new infections Wednesday, another new top daily tally.
We cannot continue to do what we have done over the last number of weeks.
In Texas, if the trend continues, health officials worry Houston could soon become the hardest hit city in the United States. That's especially alarming because hospitalizations and ICU admissions are also increasing.
So our big metro areas seem to be rising very quickly, and some of the models are, on the verge of being apocalyptic.
More than a quarter of Americans live in either Florida, Texas, or California. Officials are pleading with residents to take extra precautions, even as summer plans and warmer weather lure them away from home.
Protect others by wearing a face covering. If not just yourself, consider others in your life and strangers.
In Washington, Whitney Wild, Currents News.
More than $1 billion in stimulus checks were sent to dead people. The Fed's chief watchdog, the GAO, is saying tonight payments totaling $1.4 billion went out to more than 1 million people who are deceased. The Treasury Department told investigators they were trying to get the money out as fast as possible and didn't cut off the dead until last month after most of the funds had already been sent. Meantime, President Trump is putting the National Guard and U.S. Marshals on alert and is preparing an executive order to protect historic monuments and statues.
I think many of the people that are knocking down these statues don't even have any idea what the statue is, what it means, who it is. When they knock down Grant, when they want to knock down Grant, but when they look at certain, now they're looking at Jesus Christ, they're looking at George Washington, they're looking at Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not as long as I'm here.
The monument to missionary St. Junipero Serra was toppled by a group of about 100 people in San Francisco. Attacks against Christopher Columbus and other historic figures have also occurred. Bishop Donald Hying of the Diocese of Madison, Wisconsin, is condemning the destruction of statues, especially religious monuments. He's outraged at calls to destroy some depictions of Jesus Christ and the Blessed Virgin Mary because vandals call them symbols of white supremacy. The bishop pointed out the Son of God became incarnate in our human flesh. Does not all of humanity, every race, tribe, and tongue, have the spiritual ability to depict him through the particular lens of their own culture? The FBI is investigating what roles foreign countries played in stoking racial tensions in the U.S. The Bureau's director, Christopher Wray, is saying the violence seen at some recent protests was not the work of a single group, and overseas influence wouldn't be a surprise because adversaries have tried to cause unrest and division in the U.S. before. The Supreme Court is giving the Trump White House a win in an immigration case. In a 7-2 ruling, the justices decided that asylum seekers who have their requests rejected have no right to appeal in federal court. The administration has attempted to limit who's eligible for asylum in the United States. Today's decision keeps the courts closed to asylum seekers in expedited removal proceedings. The decision has been made to begin in-person masses again here in the Diocese of Brooklyn, and parishioners couldn't be happier. You can head to church starting Monday, and thanks to some precautions, you can feel safe while you're there.
We're very, very encouraged that we're finally getting there.
It's been a long time coming, but finally, masses will soon be back in the Brooklyn Diocese. Church doors were closed back in March because of the coronavirus pandemic.
During the COVID-19 crisis, we've all worked hard to maintain a balance between the spiritual and physical health of all people in our diocese.
That meant instead of sitting in a pew, you sat on your couch and took part in Mass virtually without receiving the sacraments. Joe Esposito has been leading the Diocesan Committee on Reopening Churches, and he's been speaking with parishioners.
They're dying to get back into church. They can do the Mass from home. They can Skype it and do it on Facebook. A lot of social media ways of seeing Mass, but they're longing for that communion with their fellow parishioners.
Last month, church doors were finally unlocked and parishioners were allowed inside for private prayer. That was stage 1. Stage 2 starts on Monday, June 29th, when daily masses will begin. Stage 3, the celebration of Sunday Mass, is set for the weekend of July 4th. No date has yet been set for Stage 4, the celebration of First Holy Communion and Confirmation. Of course, precautions need to be taken to prevent the spread of the virus. You have to wear a mask when you arrive at church and maintain social distancing. Pews will be marked to ensure everyone does. There will be no missiles available, no handshakes during the sign of peace, and when you receive communion, you have to stay 6 feet away from others in line, and communion will only be given in the hand. We're told all of the churches will be regularly sanitized and disinfected, but if you're sick, stay home. The diocese is actually encouraging everyone to get tested before returning to church.
I thank you in advance for adhering to these guidelines and the other requirements of your parish so that we can ensure that our doors remain open for you. May God bless you and keep you as we get through this pandemic together.
You should check your church's website for more information. The video on the diocese's reopening plans can be seen in its entirety at thetablet.org. And one more thing, dispensation from the obligation to attend Sunday Mass remains in effect, so people at higher risk of contracting the virus can still watch Mass at home right here on Net TV. The liturgies are on the air live Sunday and throughout the week. The full schedule is listed at netny.tv. And on Saturday, June 27th at 11 a.m. here on Net TV, you'll be able to watch live Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio ordaining new priests for the diocese. 4 men are answering God's call. Next Wednesday, July 1st at 2 p.m., Net TV will televise live the ordination of the episcopacy and installation of Bishop-elect Kevin Sweeney as the 8th bishop of the Diocese of Paterson, New Jersey, right here on Net TV, New York's Catholic station. There's a lot more news headed your way. Dating during a pandemic. It is possible in a socially distant world. We'll show you how. Plus, more first-time jobless claims filed, but it's not all bad news. We'll explain. And what exactly is a personal parish? They're getting one in Pittsburgh, and the man behind it is here to explain.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Social distancing is a thing of the past for singles signed up at a Catholic dating website. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story of couples who can download the future and live happily ever after.
Love is in the airwaves. On CatholicMatch.com, singles who are interested in faith-focused dating can become couples in just a click. That's how it happened for Tim and Maddie Van Havermaet.
Her name is Claire, and she's been my best friend since college. She signed me up for 6 months on Catholic Match. She created the whole profile. Timothy was the first person she found.
Tim and Maddie are coming up on 3 months as a married couple. Their journey, which started in a Minnesota pizzeria in 2018, seemed like it was hitting a roadblock when the pandemic forced them to cancel their wedding reception, which was supposed to happen on May 30th.
When we are able to have large group gatherings again, we'll just kind of figure it out from there.
Sort of a post-wedding
Right,
reception.
exactly.
Tim and Maddie let God and their love lead the way. With pre-Cana complete, they managed to pull off a 10-person ceremony in church on April 4th, during the apex of a global health crisis. And as you can imagine, it wasn't easy.
All of the Minnesota license bureaus and everything in the Twin Cities had all shut down. So we couldn't get a marriage license. So 24 hours before the stay-at-home order, we drove up to the Stearns County office and got a marriage license. And then came back at a drive-through.
Maddie and Tim are one of CatholicMatch.com's many success stories. But getting married during a pandemic isn't as challenging as dating during one. But the dating service is giving people hope that a simple download can lead to your soulmate.
We're definitely
like the place for Catholics to meet each other.
Kateri Bean is the content manager at Catholic Match.
We're just here to help our users figure out how to navigate these difficulties.
She got the job at the start of the pandemic and made it her mission to give singles a safe and fun outlet to start a relationship online.
We've been encouraging people, like, have fun with it and don't be afraid to get creative. Some of the ideas include scener, so you can kind of watch a movie together, or inviting other couples to join your video chat so it's a double date.
Even in the midst of a pandemic, activity on Catholic Match is up by nearly 20%. Couples can just click. God will handle the rest. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Finding a job during a pandemic is also not easy, especially since more and more people keep losing them. Another 1.5 million filed first-time jobless claims last week. According to the Department of Labor, that brings the total number of new unemployment claims filed since mid-March to more than 47 million. The only good news is first-time claims for unemployment benefits have fallen in every jobs report for the past 12 weeks. House Democrats are set to pass a policing reform bill named in honor of George Floyd. The legislation bans chokeholds, strips cops of some forms of immunity, prohibits no-knock warrants in drug cases, but it has little chance of becoming law. Senate Republicans aren't planning to look at the measure. Yesterday, Democrats in the Senate blocked a competing GOP bill on police reform. Despite the logjam in Congress, America's bishops are demanding lawmakers take action. The bishops want cops to be prohibited from using chokeholds and conducting racial profiling. In a letter sent to Capitol Hill, the bishops write, better training of cops and more accountability are essential, adding, we stand in the long tradition from St. Augustine to St. Thomas Aquinas to Dr. Martin Luther King that claims that the purpose of law and law enforcement is the promotion of justice. Let us pray that we may be peacemakers by working for justice on this issue. A New York City cop is facing criminal charges tonight, accused of using an apparent chokehold against a man on a Queens Beach boardwalk.
Yo, stop choking him, bro!
The officer, David Afanador, a 14-year veteran, is accused of strangulation and attempted strangulation in the Sunday incident. A group of officers had responded to reports of a disorderly man on the boardwalk. Afanador was released without bail and remains suspended from the force without pay. As we've reported, a personal parish is being set up in the Diocese of Pittsburgh. It's a church that will respond to the specific needs of Black Catholics during a time of racial unrest in this country. We're joined by the Bishop of the Diocese of Pittsburgh, David Zubik, to get a better idea of what this means. So, Bishop, what exactly is a personal parish? How will it be different from parishes that are already predominantly African American?
Well, thanks. First of all, Christine, good to be with you and all your viewers. Well, in the church, there are already two types of parishes. One that's called a territorial parish, which is probably defines the majority of parishes in each of the dioceses, and the second is a personal parish. A territorial parish is exactly that. You know, when a parish is divided up into a territory, everybody who lives in that territory would belong to that particular parish. A personal parish, on the other hand, is a parish that focuses on particular needs of a faith community and tries to respond to that. So I think most people would be very much aware that at the beginning of the last century, as we had many immigrants who were coming from Europe, there were parishes that were established to help people become accustomed to a new country. So you had your Polish parish, and Slovak parish, and Croatian parish, and Italian parish. And so those were parishes that were established to really help those folks be familiar with their customs that would, in fact, help to deepen their faith. So that's what a personal parish is.
Okay, so can anyone of any race attend this parish? And what about the people who already belong to St. Benedict the Moor?
And that's a great question, Christine. Yes, a personal parish is open to people from anywhere who might want to come and belong to it. Now, St. Benedict, the Moor parish in the diocese, has had a long history. And it has in the past been a personal parish. We're going through a major reorganization of our parishes, which we began back in April of 2015. And St. Benedict's was folded into two other faith communities in the city of Pittsburgh. But became apparent almost at the beginning of that particular merger that there were specific needs that people from St. Benedict had. And so long before the crisis that we're faced with in our country, back in February, I went to have Mass at St. Benedict, lively Mass within the context of the Black Catholic tradition, and then spent a good part of the day being with the parishioners who raised comments about things that they needed. I asked that they would form an ad hoc committee and come forward with some specific recommendations. I got those recommendations about 3 weeks ago, and the bottom line was we would like to ask you to consider to make this a personal parish again. And last weekend I announced that, what I heard was, we have specific needs that we want the Church of Pittsburgh to respond to, and we're moving forward with their request.
All right, and now this parish, as you mentioned, it's being set up during a time of racial unrest, the deaths of black men and a woman at the hands of police. Talk about why now is the time to open this personal parish.
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, it was a matter of coincidence that it's happening. I want to say it's even a matter of divine providence, because as I indicated, the whole process of pulling together this decision really started to happen back in January. And I think that my hope is that people from the wider Church of Pittsburgh and beyond, recognize how much we need to be sensitive and empathetic to the needs of our Black sisters and brothers. Because I think that, all of us have to look for ways in which we can join our hands and hearts on our way to God's kingdom. And this is a beautiful way in which we can do that, certainly in our diocese.
All right, Bishop David Zubik of the Diocese of Pittsburgh, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, good to be with you. God bless you.
Still to come on Currents News, true friendship is colorblind. These pictures of these fast friends went viral. Their mother's hoping there's a lesson in it. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, a friendship that is heartwarming. These photos of Landon Armada and Vondell Cherry have gone viral. The two connecting online through their mothers, who are also childhood friends. When the 3-year-olds finally met face to face, their love for each other sent out a message that everyone could see.
It starts with valuing each other as humans, and I think that's lost now. I don't want either of our boys to grow up in a world that we don't value one another.
The mom started the hashtag Starts With Us to further encourage the world to teach equality to the next generation. And that is Currents News. A reminder that next week we're going to be on hiatus ahead of the 4th of July holiday. Net TV is preparing an outstanding lineup of programs that will air while we're away. You can find the schedule at netny.tv. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.